All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Chupacabra Tutorials channel. I'm your host, Larry, and today we're back for an updated version of the action tutorial, walking you through the various settings and like where to find stuff and change stuff and set it up so that this isn't an absolute nightmarish headache, because these can be kind of overwhelming when you first start messing with them. So, the first thing is, I'm going to show you what version this is. I'm currently showing you this on version 4.20.3. I'm going to just tell you the version number every time I do an update on this tutorial moving forward. So when you open up Action, you're probably going to be greeted with a screen that looks like this. Over on the left side of the screen, you have two things. This is probably what you're going to be greeted with. This is the little file manager that shows you all of your recorded footage from your gameplay, from your desktop, from whatever that you've already created, and then you can double click it to preview it. In this case, I just did a quick preview of my screen and all that stuff, just to show you how that worked. And then depending on what kind of file type you record with, you can either export it from here using this arrow that's grayed out, but I've recorded in MP3 format, which is the most versatile format for doing stuff anymore, so I don't really have to. And then from this screen, if this is already ready to go, you can just click the Upload to YouTube button, and once you have your accounts set up in this software, if you want to do that, it'll automatically upload it, and then you can fill out the information and all of that jazz. So you can also open the folder, and then you can also add like a new folder that keeps stuff in to try to sort it by like games or software or whatever. The other thing here is your preview window. This will be a preview of whatever you're trying to record so that you can make sure that it actually shows up in the software. I will probably do a little sample of this in a minute. Alternatively, if you're really gung-ho about it, you can also do like a screen capture, and here you can see that I'm recording this software on my channel background just to make it cleaner when I put it onto YouTube. So you can kind of see what you're trying to record in this preview window before you do it. But just because I don't want this to freak out when there's a recorder recording another recorder, I'm going to turn that off for right now just to be sure. So let's start in on settings on the right. Well, actually, I guess we'll finish on the left. So up here, the folder here, you can select what folder you want your recordings to go to up here. But I've got mine set to a specific drive that I have for recording footage, where I used to dump gigs and terabytes of stuff. So that's just where I keep everything. And then you can sort things by date. You can sort them from top to bottom. All that jazz is on the left. On the right is all of your settings. This is where you'll be able to control recordings, live streaming, your settings, all of those audio capture things. So over here, this first tab is the video recording tab, the one that looks like a little piece of film strip. So this will allow you to record gameplay, your screen, a specific window on your computer, which would be like a specific program window that's open. You can set up a specific area of your screen if you would like to record a specific area, or you can record a specific device like a camera plugged into your computer, a capture card, or a virtual capture thing can all be set up and controlled through there. So starting with a game capture in the game capture modes, the file format are you can record an AVI video, which is like a Microsoft video, which is a little hard to edit depending on what software you use, or you can record an MP4 video. If you want to record like a game and upload it to places like YouTube, I recommend starting an MP4 and working from there. If you're more accustomed to working with an AVI file and you've got an editor that supports that, that will work too. It's completely up to you. I'm going to go with MP4. Hardware acceleration. If you have a fancy or new graphics card, which pretty much all of them should support this in some way, there is an onboard codec for video recording, which makes it really easy for a recorder like this to just steal a copy of whatever video footage is being fed to your monitor, and it's really low on the resources. It makes it really efficient to record on your computer, and it cuts down on lag. I recommend using hardware acceleration if it's available. And the options are the NVENC one is like a built-in NVIDIA one. This is like the DVD Blu-ray version of it. And this is like the high dynamic range version of that. This is like the highest quality. These will all work, and these will all be really more efficient than just leaving it at recording using your computer's CPU. From there, you can determine what resolution you want to record in. If you set it to original, that will record any resolution that is currently being sent to your monitor. So that's upwards of like 4K, and I believe it goes up to 8K now, but don't quote me on that. But here we got 1080p, this is 2K, and then this is 4K. And then beyond that would be like 8K and all that stuff. So I'm actually going to just leave it at 1080p. 1440p is what I have my monitor set to right now. Actually, no, this is a 4K one now, so that's this. This is what I'm running right now. And then I can set the aspect ratio to the original. There's actually two versions of 4K. One's really widescreen, and the one that you probably want to use for the purposes of YouTube is 16:9. 16:9 is like the standard rectangle that most of us live our lives in. 21:9 is the widescreen version. Just a fun fact for you. So frame rate. This handles up to, well, actually, no, if I put it up to the higher frame rate, or codec, it goes up to 360. Record at like 60, somewhere between 60 and 120 is probably plenty. Now, the more frames you have, if you have a really beast of a graphics card, I'm running at 1070, would allow you to play with like slowing down time and speeding it up, and you would have a lot better video quality when you do that. If you have a lower frame rate and you try to fake slowing down time, it's gonna try to like fill in the gaps of the extra missing frames by using crazy computer logic, and it'll look weird. Simplest way I have of describing that. So probably 30 to 60 is probably your better bet, but if you want, you can play with like 120, 144, 360. I'm gonna set mine to 60 FPS, and I'm gonna set it to CFR, which is constant frame rate, which means it'll always be forcibly trying to record 60 FPS. Variable frame rate means that if your frame rate dips, the frame rate in that part of the video will dip. Variable frame rate's actually pretty common in a lot of videos. You can get a frame rate counter and watch your favorite movies, and like depending on your favorite video, sometimes when you're recording or just like watching a video that somebody else made, you'll see the frame rate dips because it doesn't have to like kick out as many frames because there's not a lot of movement going on screen, so it doesn't have to update as much. But I mean, good quality is constant frame rate. Roll with that. What is time shift? Time shift, and if you click on this question mark button, it'll actually take you to the website and explain this. Time shift is like a highlight reel that's constantly being recorded in the background while you're recording, and you can just hit a key binding and it'll save like the last minute or the last, you can set it up to like, 59 minutes. You can set it up to like instantly record the last 10 minutes if something cool happened and you want to save that for your highlight reel. So if you want to enable this, you click this little checkbox here, then you can go into the settings to change all this. So you can say like, what's the output mode? I want this to output to your hard drive, or do you want it to run in RAM? If you run this in RAM, it'll conceivably be a little bit more efficient and it'll respond a little bit faster than if you do it on your hard drive, even if you're running an SSD. However, it'll also potentially eat up a bunch of your RAM. So if you're like me and you have 32 gigs of RAM, this probably doesn't matter. If you have like 8 gigs or 16 gigs, which a lot of people do, then that you probably want to set it to hard drive. How big do you want the recording buffer to be? It'll go up to 128 gigs. 4 gigs is probably plenty for like a small clip. An hour's worth of footage will probably run you closer to 16 or 32 gigs. So that's just a good, kind of thing to think about. And then you can also tell it what folder to temporarily record that in. Obviously, I set my folder to recording footage, so that's where it'll try to store it. I don't really use that, because if I'm going to record, I'm constantly recording, so I'm just going to leave that turned off. Setting up your sound devices. Your primary sound device is your desktop audio. How do you hear your desktop audio? Set that device in this big pull-down menu. In this case, it's my headphones, so I'm going to set it to my gaming headset. You can disable recording your background desktop audio if you want. Then down here, you've got the audio level. Do you want it full volume, or do you want to reduce the volume because the background noise cuts over top of your microphone? Easy way to do mixing right here. Alternatively, if you're going to use an editor later, this probably doesn't matter. So next up, we've got the secondary sound device. That's your microphone. That's your input device. Find it in this pull-down menu and set it up. You can set your microphone to be full volume, half volume, boosted volume, whatever you want. Now, here's the important detail I know a lot of people who want to be big pros at recording their footage and editing it later are going to want to know. So for your microphone, there's a settings tab over here. Open that little window up, and this is where you can tell it to record your microphone on a separate audio track inside of your video file. This is important because this will allow you to grab your microphone audio separate from your game audio or your whatever audio, and then you can edit it without messing up the other audio on your system. Down here, you can control the audio balance, left or right, and you can make it like mono, only right, only left, whatever, or just have it balanced in the middle. You can set up a delay. Well, specifically, you can set a microphone off delay. So if you don't set it to always record, you can set it to record via a push to talk button. And what this will do, this delay, is it'll wait a couple seconds before cutting off your microphone after you lift up on the button so that it doesn't miss out on any of the stuff that you're trying to say. It's not unusual when you're using a push to talk for you to still be talking a little bit as you untoggle your push to talk. So you don't want to miss out on anything you're trying to say. This will help to do that. You've also got a noise reduction feature down here that you can play with. If you set this up, anything that's below like negative 36 decibel volume will be cut off from your recording. So if you've got a fan in the background that you want to remove and you don't want to edit your audio later, you can play with this to try to remove that. I would recommend experimenting with this before you do any heavy recording to make sure it works properly. Because if you set this wrong, it'll cut off your whole voice and then people won't be able to hear half of what you're trying to say, especially if you're trying to have like a dramatic moment where you whisper into the microphone during a really scary gameplay moment. So that stuff is all really important in there. The main feature that I would pay attention to is at the top, record your microphone into a separate audio track. Super important for a lot of people. It used to be really janky to set that up before. It's a lot nicer now. So down here, you can enable or disable an additional audio device if you would like. And then you can set that to be recorded into a separate audio file as well. There's no other option for this one. It'll always record it into a separate audio track / file. So this would be like, let's say you're on a call with your buddy and you're playing this game together and you want to be able to edit his microphone because it's terrible. You can set it up so that his mic goes through another headset, and then you can set that up to like run through that through here. Down here, you've got webcam. You can enable it. You can set up which device you want to use for it. And then you've got settings controls right here. Now, what does this do? What this is going to do, if it wants to like show up, is this is going to display where your webcam is. I'm not really sure why it's not showing up, but there should be a little square on your screen in one of these corners, and then by playing around with the horizontal and the vertical position, you can change its location. And then if you want to remove the webcam background, you can use that here. And then you can either use a chroma key, or later they're adding a special fancy AI system to automatically cut out your background for you. Chroma key is where you select the green screen in the background, so you can grab this eyedropper tool and select it, and then it'll automatically pull out all the green. And then you can play with the threshold, and then you can play with the blend till it looks nice and crisp on your screen. I don't have one set up. I do have a webcam, although for some reason it's not working, and I'm guessing it's because I'm using OBS to record this software tutorial, so my bad. I'll work on fixing that in a minute. In fact, let me do this. Let's see if I can get this to behave now that I've... Okay, yeah. There, you can see my webcam right here. Let me just turn that into a black box because it's a little easier to show you. And then I can move this around, up and down, to wherever I want it to. It's not as nice as just being able to click and drag like other programs like OBS or Streamlabs, but this program also has a lot more power in like the different features and codecs that it allows you to record with. So you win some, you lose some. You can determine what resolution you record at. You can make it small, you can make it big, what refresh rate you want, all that stuff. You even set it to default. Default will probably be whatever your webcam is outputting is the quality that it'll be trying to smush down and put into your video. So down here, you can also add an overlay graphic. So if you have like a HUD or something that you want to put up on your stream, you can do that here or in your video. And then you can set a video duration so that it'll only record for so long before shutting off. So if you know that you want to record for exactly 30 minutes, you can set that up down here. And then currently you can do two things to start a recording. You can hit the recording key binding, which is F9, or you can literally just press the big record button and it'll do everything for you. So the settings are a little bit different when you go between different types of recordings. So if we go to screen recording, it'll ask you, do you want to record desktop 1? Do you want to record desktop 2? But that's only if you have multiple monitors like I do. Otherwise, the settings are basically the same. With window, very similar, except it's asking you what software that is currently running on your computer do you want to record. And then when you have the area, you get this little box that's kind of funny looking that determines what chunk of your screen that you record. And then you can hit this button here to start recording. You can hit this button to start streaming it. You can snap this to existing windows, which will snap it to like a piece of software that you can see on screen. You can also change the preset to be like, what size rectangle do you want? You can grab the corners and drag it around. You can make it bigger or smaller. You can add this as a preset, whatever. You can call this like crab people. You can be like, boom, crab people. And then you'll have the option to select stuff. You can draw with it, which is really weird and janky. It's kind of like in the corner. And then you can draw with it. I'm going to turn that off. Whoa. Okay, clear that. Let's turn that off. You can take a screenshot of whatever you're seeing in front of you, and you can move it around. It's kind of a neat feature. It's definitely more robust than others that do similar stuff. You can also do a device, which is like at the top here, it says, what device do you want to record? Do you want to record your webcam, your capture card, a virtual device, whatever. It's all controlled there in a pull down. And then for the most part, that is all the settings for your screen recording. And some of this stuff, I think, gets carried over to your settings for live streaming. So the live streaming settings are going to use whatever settings you have here, but instead of just recording them, it's going to stream them to the web. Does that make sense? But you get the same capture modes, but now instead of just saving a file on your computer, it's sending it to Twitch or Mixer or wherever. So what you can do is here at the top, you can log into any of your excuse me. Here at the top, you can log into all of your streaming services. These are the main popular ones right now. If this doesn't work for you, you can also set a custom one. You just got to put in the server URL and the stream key, and it'll send it wherever you want it. You can tell it what size you want to stream from your computer up to the web. So if you want it 1080p or bigger or whatever, same idea as the recording settings. You can set frame rate. You can set the bit rate. I think the maximum that Twitch likes you to stream at is like 6.5. So like 4.5 or 6, whatever your internet can handle, is probably a solid place to start. If you want to auto reconnect if something bad happens, you can toggle that here. If you want to record streamed video to your disk, you can do that here. So what this does is it'll just save a copy of your stream to your computer if you want to edit it later. In fact, I take it back. I don't think a lot of the settings from over here, besides your sound devices, I don't think a lot of this gets carried over. I think most of that just is specific to your recording versus your streaming. So, overlay sources. These aren't just like a regular like overlay for a graphic, right? So the graphic that you want to use, if you want to use like a HUD, you put that in over here. But for streaming, these things are like your notifications. So if you log into like Streamlabs and you have like a new subscriber notification set up through your account over there, they'll give you a URL that you can put into this program in your settings that will feed that information into this recorder so that you don't need to use a third-party application to do that, which is more resource intensive. And you can have up to 6 of them set up through here. And you can have like the output mode be video plus HUD or just HUD. And then all of the settings in here are just what frame rate do you want to run these at. And I would say match this frame rate to whatever frame rate you're streaming to, be it 60, 50, 30, 25, 15, whatever. It's always good for your frame rates to match. Make sure your webcam's set to that. Make sure your notifications are set to that. Make sure your video gameplay is set to all the same frame rate, if at all possible. It prevents stuttering and it prevents other weird things happening. So you can set up to 6 different URLs and enable or disable them with this toggle. And then it can handle like notifications, who's your new follower, who's your new subscriber, who's the latest shout out, whatever. You can put those in here, and then those settings are usually controlled on a separate website account that aren't directly related to Action. And that's your streaming features. It's basically very similar to your recording. But these two panels of settings are slightly related, so make sure you fill out your gameplay recording settings and also your live settings if you want to stream. So here's this next tab is your sound tab. This will be like, what do you want to record with? So your audio device that you want to record with is your Blue Yeti. Or you can also record just your computer sounds if you want to. I mean, they got Oculus headphones, whatever. Can I put in my Logitech ones? Yeah, speakers. And then you can output this to either an MP4 audio or a WAV file. And then you can set to record your microphone, allow multi-channel audio recording, record silence, and this will just record your audio if you set this up, and you can also set like a duration of how long you want it to record for before you shut it off. And this will allow you to like record podcasts, just record audio between you and someone else. Whatever reason you want to record audio, that's between you and you. Not really my business. And then you can set your microphone to always record on button press, toggle it on and off. It's basically just like a push to talk. 2 push to talk options are there. Next up, you've got your screenshots. Do you want to take a PNG, a bitmap, or a JPEG? JPEG is probably really usable for people. Same with PNG. Not everybody's got the ability to do anything with a bitmap. I'll set mine to PNG. Your options are to record or to take a screenshot of your entire desktop. This would be both your monitors at the same time, or you can set one or the other. And then you can click this button to take a screenshot, and then it'll appear over here. So in this case, I've got Hulu open on my other monitor. I was watching that earlier, so let's take a quick screenshot. And then boom. What does this look like? Oh no, it does just take whatever your active desktop is. But you can set it to record either of these other ones. I thought this recorded like a screenshot from both, but it doesn't. Good to know. Next up, benchmarking. What does benchmarking do? Well, while you're playing a game, you can set this up, and then when you're playing the game, you can hit the F11 key binding. I don't think this button actually oh no, it does. Okay. This button does record this. But what this is while you're playing a game, you can hit this and it'll record your system's, like, what it's doing, what the CPU is doing, what your GPU is doing, what your RAM is doing. And that will allow you to see what's going on with your computer and to see what might be lagging you. It's just benchmarking your stats as you try to play a game. In this case, I believe it's trying to benchmark the features of your computer that are going to be used when recording. For more information on this, see the website. I don't really know anybody who'd need or want this, but if you need this for troubleshooting or for diagnostics, it's here. Settings. The settings. So each one of these other tabs, as I was saying, each has its own settings. Consider this gear tab the overarching program settings. So in the general tab, this is what language do you want? Are you cool with this interface size, or do you want all the fonts and everything bigger? You can make it up to 50% bigger than normal, to 150%. You can automatically check for updates for your software every time it launches. You have the option to start the application minimized into the little corner system tray where your like date and time and everything are stored. You can hide action window on desktop recording start. This is actually probably smart. This will basically, if you toggle this on and you hit start recording your desktop, it'll hide the program automatically so you don't have to click to minimize it. Maybe not that important, but it's an option for you. You can show action window when the desktop recording is finished, run action on Windows Start, enable RCU. This is the remote control app that you can get that goes on your phone so you can remotely control it from like across the room if you want. If you're trying to record like VR, that might be really helpful. You can do a delay recording, so it's like, you know, a countdown timer. And then you can exclude processes, where you exclude different software from being on the list of available programs that you can record from. And then down here, hide preview on recording/streaming start. So basically what this is when you record, or when you're going to get ready to record something, their stuff will show up in this preview window, right? That option turns this off, so it's not using extra resources to constantly maintain this preview window while you're recording. It's kind of pointless if you're already recording. Next up, we got video. Video quality. Do you want your videos to be low, normal, high, or ultra quality? High is probably fine. If you're really a stickler, I'd probably set that to ultra. You can also manually force the bitrate to be up to 200 megabits per second. It's worth noting, just for your reference, that a standard YouTube video at 30 FPS is about 8 megabits per second. A 60 FPS is about 25 to 35. And then like a 4K video is upwards of like 45 to 60. Just as a good point of reference. However, I would say that ultra or high is completely fine. And then you can set your bit rate to, I don't know why they set it to a percentage, but I would assume that this is like half quality of high quality. You can kind of play around with the overall, this is more performance, this is more quality. Just think of it that way. Input range. This is the color range. If you have limited color range, the shadows and the light portions, like the bright sunny portions of a scene, will not be as detailed. I recommend leaving it on full if that's an option. Multi-core recording is good. A lot of people have multiple cores now, might as well. Do you want to record the mouse cursor or not? Kind of depends what you're doing. If you find it's in the way, untoggle this. If you want to visualize mouse clicks, let's say you're doing a tutorial on Photoshop, sometimes it's helpful for people to see where your mouse is so they don't lose track of what's going on. It'll probably it does like a little circular ping around your mouse. If you want that, it's there. So this is an option that I don't have available. I tried to click it earlier before recording this and it got mad at me. So this is grayed out. It's use hardware acceleration for decoding the webcam video footage. If you want to use that and it's available, go for it. And then automatically split your files or your recordings into different parts at a certain time. This is actually great. I wish more programs had this. If you find yourself recording like a really long game in one shot, but you find that your computer sometimes freaks out and lags and ruins an hour-long video, this will prevent it from ruining all 60 minutes of like an hour-long video if you split it into 10, 15, 20-minute chunks. And you can control that with these little toggles. How long do you want to wait and then split it into another video? Totally would use that. Next up, we've got audio. Do you want to record sound? Do you want to allow multi-channel audio recording? If you want to split your microphone audio into a separate track in your MP4 file, you have to have this toggled on. I would always set the bit rate to your anything at the highest it'll go for sound. Higher the number, the better the quality. HUD. This is not like the HUD that you make that you want in your videos. This is the action like HUD that you see inside of the game that you're recording. So when you record inside of a program, action will actually like pop up like a number and a status notifier that'll tell you that you're recording. They'll tell you what your frame rate is and all of that stuff so that you can see what's going on. I don't know a lot of people that want people to see that outside of a tutorial, right? So that doesn't make much sense. But you can let it be recorded if you want by untoggling this. Same thing, do not record the HUD in games. Do not record it on your desktop. Hide the HUD on action startup. These are actually fine defaults. I maybe wouldn't mess with these. Show recorded webcam preview. Show live streaming viewer statistics. This might be helpful to you to know how many people are currently watching without having to look over at another screen. And then you can set where you want the HUD to appear in what corner or portion of your screen. Top right is fine with me, to be honest. This might just depend more on your game or what you're trying to record. If something important is in that portion of the screen, you might not want it covered up. So, exporting, I think this is mostly for when you record with AVI videos, because I don't really have anything that I can export on my end. But this is like, do you want it to use hardware acceleration when exporting videos from action to somewhere else? Sure, why not? Use the best one available. It'll make things a lot nicer. Do you want to export the mouse cursor or not? Do you want to export mouse clicks? Those are options. Hotkeys. You can rebind all the hotkeys for the software right here. Almost all of them. Obviously, 3 of these are kind of locked down and you can't mess with those. But the rest of these, you can customize them however you want. They're all here. You can mess with them and see them as much as you want right there. And that, for the most part, should be like 90% of the software. Okay, so now we've got Among Us open. And now I can set action to try to record that specific game window. But let's just do the screen. Actually, no, let's do the window. Let's say Among Us. Okay, and now it's recording this. And then when we're recording with action, it should, in theory, have a pop-up in the corner, but it doesn't, so that's weird, but it's still recording it, obviously. And it should work just fine as I, like, click on settings, close it again, whatever, and then stop the recording. And if I play it, you can see, I open settings, you can see everything. Normally the HUD takes over, but I guess because I wasn't playing it in full screen mode, it didn't show up. But you can always, if you have multiple screens, just put this in the other screen, you can see what's going on. That's what I do with OBS all the time. So that, in a nutshell, is 99% of everything going on with action. What's in settings? It just takes us to the settings tab. Accounts, just the accounts that you're signed into, and the about is just what version you're running and all that stuff. So yeah, that's like 90% of action. If I didn't cover anything or I skipped anything accidentally, my bad. If you need more details on something, just ask. I've used this software quite a bit. Not as much as other ones like OBS. This is basically my backup recorder when I want to record something else. Or use multiple recorders and make my computer scream. So if you're curious about anything that's going on inside of this software, by all means, go ahead and ask. It can't hurt. I mean, if I don't know something, I'll just Google it. Like, you can go to the website. They have a whole PDF manual that also explains all these settings. So I encourage you to check that out and find out more information as you need it. And there's also several guides on how to get these like little interactive overlay custom URL sources working using Streamlabs and other websites. So check it out. A lot of great resources out there. I'll link you to the website where this game or where this recorder is found. I will link you to the PDF of the manual and all that stuff. So that'll be it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I've been your host, Larry. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Bye, everybody, and have a good one.